The end is always written before the conflict begins. You think you are making free choices in your workplace, your relationships, or your digital life. But what if your desire was engineered? What if your frustration were a tool? And what if your perceived liberation is just a more sophisticated cage? Behind every social interaction lies an unresolved question. Why are some individuals consistently elevated while others are perpetually sidelined? The answer is uncomfortable, and it rests on a foundation you have been conditioned to ignore. Welcome to Shadow Philosophy. I am James, and tonight you are invited on a journey into the hidden architecture of influence that shapes the modern world. The ideas we are about to explore are not relics of a distant past. They are enduring patterns that continue to guide politics, business, media, relationships, and even the way we understand ourselves. Machiavelli observed that power rarely announces itself openly. Instead, it works through perception, narrative, and human psychology. The uncomfortable truth is that these mechanisms never disappeared. They adapted to a new age, becoming more subtle, more sophisticated, and often more difficult to recognize. In a world overflowing with information, influence surrounds us at every moment. The forces competing for our attention quietly shape our beliefs, desires, and decisions, while preserving the illusion that we arrive at them entirely on our own. By examining these hidden structures, we begin to see the invisible framework behind power, ambition, conformity, and control. This is not a journey into fear, but into awareness. Because once a pattern becomes visible, it loses much of its power over us. Let us step into the shadows together and uncover the forces that shape our reality and the choices we call our own. The architecture of information. Control the information, and you quietly shape the world another person sees. Modern social media algorithms are the ultimate tool for manipulation, feeding us curated realities to ensure we react rather than respond. We find ourselves trapped in echo chambers, believing we have formulated independent opinions. The paradox is that the more information we consume, the less we understand about the forces directing our gaze. Our common enemy is a system built to monetize our attention through intentional distortion and selective storytelling. Throughout history, those who controlled the narrative controlled the people, and many philosophers observe that the true battle is for the reality of the observer. Patterns repeatedly emerge in how we absorb media. Most people never saw it, but the algorithm is a mirror of your deepest insecurities, designed to keep you scrolling in search of validation that never arrives. The tragedy is that we mistake the screen for the world. We are not just consuming data, we are being consumed by it. As we scroll, we lose the capacity for stillness, an essential ingredient for critical thought. The system relies on our inability to pause, to breathe, and to question the stream. And history has noticed that once the truth is buried under layers of noise, a lie becomes the foundation of stability. The illusion of indispensability. We are conditioned to fear irrelevance. Consequently, we often strive to become indispensable in our social or professional spheres. This is a quiet kind of control, as we tether our identity to our utility. Yet the moment you become essential, you are also restricted. You are trapped by the very expectations you created to secure your position. Many philosophers observed that the greatest strength can become the heaviest shackle. We are fighting a culture that demands constant performance for a shred of validation. The corporate world thrives on these dynamic, convincing individuals whose worth is tied to their output. But the paradox is profound. To be essential is to be a prisoner of your own creation. You are no longer acting in your own best interests. You are performing to sustain a role that the system demands. This is not a service. This is subservience masked as professional dedication. The common enemy is the toxic expectation that we must always be available, always productive, and always visible to be valued. Patterns repeatedly emerge in this struggle for status. Most people never saw it, but the pressure to be essential is a mechanism of total control that strips away the time needed for personal reflection. And history noticed that the truly indispensable person is the one who has made themselves irrelevant to the machine. But the pattern returned. We sacrifice our peace for a fleeting sense of security that is always one restructuring away from vanishing. The power of strategic silence. In an age of relentless self-promotion, silence has become a revolutionary act. Most people are terrified of the pause. They rush to fill the void, revealing their anxieties, desires, and tactical weaknesses in the process. By remaining calm and restrained, you disrupt the momentum of a pressured situation. And history shows that the next person to speak to is often the one who loses. Silence is not just an absence of sound, it is a presence of intent, stripping away the artificial noise of manipulation. Many philosophers observed that the capacity to hold your ground without resorting to words is the mark of a disciplined mind. The common enemy here is the shallow culture that equates volume with truth and activity with progress. The more you speak, the less you are heard. By embracing silence, you gain the space to observe others' tactical maneuvers, revealing their own contradictions. Patterns repeatedly emerge in this dynamic of quiet observation. Most people never saw it, but those who are comfortable with silence hold an invisible authority that no amount of noise can replicate. The dramatic pacing of life is often interrupted by the need to fill the gaps, but the person who waits, who breathes, and who listens to the rhythm of the room possesses true power. But the pattern returned, as the culture forces us to constantly signal our presence. Yet, in that silence you find your own clarity, distinct from the clamour. The architecture of choice. The ultimate manipulation is giving someone the feeling that they are in control of their own decisions. Modern life is filled with the illusion of choice, where every option presented leads to the same predetermined outcome dictated by corporate or societal influence. We believe we are acting freely, while we are merely selecting the prison door. This is the paradox of modern freedom. We are encouraged to choose, provided we do not choose to leave the system that defines our worth. The common enemy is the structural conditioning that limits our imagination to what is profitable. Throughout history, the most effective forms of control were those that felt like personal liberty. Many philosophers observe that the greatest cage is the one with no bars, because the prisoner believes they are walking on the outside. Patterns repeatedly emerge in how we are steered towards specific paths, even as we are told our journey is our own. Most people never saw it, but the choices we make are often just the result of a subtle nudge, a carefully placed advertisement, or an unspoken social pressure. And history has shown that the freedom to choose is meaningless if the options are fundamentally the same. The struggle is not to choose between the options provided, but to create options that exist outside the current framework. But the pattern returned. We accept the menu as if it were the whole reality, forgetting that we could leave the restaurant entirely if we dared to walk away. I am James, and this is Shadow Philosophy. I invite you to reflect on the patterns we have examined and consider where they appear in your own life. The question that has followed us throughout this journey remains unanswered. Are you willing to relinquish the comfort of illusion to reclaim your own agency? The shadows are not merely around you, they exist wherever influence goes unchallenged. Whether you choose to recognize them is a decision only you can make. The shadows are not always obvious. They appear wherever influence goes unquestioned. If you enjoyed this exploration, like this video, subscribe to Shadow Philosophy, and join us for more journeys into power, psychology, and human nature. The choice to see beyond the illusion is yours alone,